Hello, my dear friends. I have a very important recommendation to make, and that is this year, take the events of the past 6 months, which for most of us have been the most profoundly impactful of our whole lives, both in a inspiring way and in a depressing way, and it's a process that's unfolding, and relate that to the Pesach Seder. And wherever you go in the Haggadah, whatever page you're on, find ways to connect the Haggadah to what we have been living through. It's like if you've ever had a Holocaust survivor at the Seder table, the survivor, he or she will constantly remember things that they experienced during the Holocaust and relate that to the Seder. We have to do the same thing. In the Haggadah it says, a person has to, in every generation, a person has to feel that there's a new Yetzias Mitzrayim. The Pesach is not a celebration of ancient history, what happened 3,000 years ago. We're re-experiencing it every year because everybody goes through turmoil in their lives, and there's the ups and the downs, the hills and the valleys, the trials and the tribulations. So we all have our own Yetzias Mitzrayim. And this year's Yetzias Mitzrayim, when we say in the Haggadah, how is this night different? Every year, the answer is, this year was different than last year, and it's different than 2 years ago. And this year is the most different than it's been in our lifetime. And we have to relate that to the Haggadah. So let me give you a few examples of ways, just springboards, and you'll pick it up from there. You'll take it, and you'll find ways to these types of links and connections. First of all, the Haggadah says, this has stood for our forefathers and for ourselves. What's the he? It's the haftacha, the promise that Kadosh Baruch Hu made to Avraham Avinu that the Jewish people will survive. There was not just one nation that tried to destroy us. In every generation, they tried to destroy us. The Jewish history is about B'chol Dor V'Dor. Every generation there was another expulsion, another pogrom, another Holocaust, another Inquisition, another Crusaders. So now we have the latest is Islamic terrorism and Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran. There's B'chol Dor V'Dor. This our door, the Om de Malenu L'Chalsenu. And how are we surviving? HaKadosh Baruch Hu Matzileinu Miyadam. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu is protecting us. I mentioned 2 weeks ago, how did the Baal Haggadah know that the Jewish people would survive? And how did the Baal Haggadah know that in every generation they'll try to destroy us? It's a prophecy. It's with it's a nevuah. So the nevuah is being fulfilled in our generation. Om de Malenu Chalseinu. But in spite of all the world pressure and condemnation of the state of Israel and everything that's going on, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Matzileinu Miyadu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is protecting us. The matzah and the maror are such powerful symbols. They're always powerful, but especially this year, the maror is a symbol of bitterness. There's also the salt water, which we dip the carpus into the salt water, which is tears. And the maror is bitterness. There's been so many tears shed this past year. The tears for the hostages. The hostages, could you imagine how bitter their lives have been there, and how much they have cried in captivity, and how much their families have cried. There have been oceans of tears. And the trauma for all of Klal Yisrael. That's the maror. And on the other hand, there's the matzah, which is the symbol of salvation and the hashgacha pratis. And there's been so many miracles that have taken place this past year, and so many yeshuos and so many extraordinary events that have taken place, and so much we've witnessed, so much mesiras nefesh, and Klal Yisrael has risen to the occasion, and there's so much achdus and unity and determination and emunah and bitachon. That's the symbol of the matzah. So you have the two extremes, the matzah and the maror. We are experiencing it every single day for the past 6 months. The matzah itself, we break in half. Why do we break the matzah in half? We break it in half. We say holach ma'anya. Matzah is supposed to be the symbol of geula. Later in the Haggadah we say matzah it's a sign of redemption. So why in the beginning of Haggadah we say holach ma'anya? This is poor man's bread. which one is it? Is it the Maral asks? Is it a sign of suffering, or is it a sign of redemption? How can it be both at the same time? So the answer is matzah is a sign of salvation, but oftentimes the salvation appears to be incomplete, or worse yet, it's hidden, it's disguised. Matzah, the fact that they ate matzah in Mitzrayim is, why did they eat matzah in Mitzrayim? They didn't go out yet. They ate matzah in Mitzrayim because there was it was a process. Being Avodah Mitzrayim was a process that was going to lead to the salvation, and it started already when they became Avodah in Mitzrayim. So therefore, the matzah encapsulates all the events of the Jewish history of that period of time, the 210 years. It's all reflected in the matzah. So it starts out as lechem, but it becomes the lechem of geula. So the matzah, the geula, it's a process. So we're in the middle of the process, and that's why even though we see elements of the matzah which are geula, but it's hidden from us. It's not, the geula is not so obvious, and we have a broken matzah. It's a lachamon is because it's prutza. A poor person eats broken matzahs. The nisim that we're seeing are broken because combined with those nisim is the mar, is the bitterness. But the matzah, when you break the matzah, the other half is the afikomen. And the afikomen you eat at the end of the meal. That means the afikomen is represents the geula hasida, the coming of Mashiach. The matzah will become whole. The process will be completed. Everything will be rectified. But it's a process. It takes time, and that's why we have. You put the two pieces of matzah together. We break it in the beginning of the Seder to show that right now we're in the middle. It's incomplete, and we have the smaller half. But eventually, we're going to be able to eat the afikomen, and the geula will be complete, and we'll be able to reflect retroactively how everything was hashgacha pratis from Hakadosh Baruch Hu. The marar, after we eat the marar by itself, it's so bitter to eat marar by itself. So what do? We say, you know what? The marar has to be eaten with the matzah. We have to make a sandwich. You have to put the marar inside the two pieces of matzah, because you need to put the bitterness into a religious context, and you have to be able to recognize that the moments of the positive moments where you see the Yad Hashem, that has to overshadow the bitterness of the mar, and that takes away the bitter taste of the mar. The Gemara says the mar bismana is only Rabbanan. The mitzvah, the rice of eating mar, is only when you eat it with korban pesach. When you eat mar now after the Churban of Beis Hamikdash, it's only a mitzvah, but it's rabbinic mitzvah because you don't have the korban pesach. What is that? Why is that? It's because in order to be able to really eat the maror with the matzah, and that the matzah should transform the maror, and so we should understand the meaning of the bitterness in our lives, that it's really all for everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is for our good. You have to have the korban pesach. Korban pesach was the hashgacha pratis, the divine providence that the Jewish people saw. When there's no Beis Hamikdash, we don't have the korban pesach, because the divine providence, everything that it's always nista, everything is hidden from us. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is orchestrating behind the scenes, but we don't see it overtly, and therefore the matzah, even though we're eating the matzah with the mar, but it's the Rabbanan. We don't have the full impact of the matzah on the mar. When there'll be a korban pesach, then we'll be able to appreciate the matzah mar. That when Mashiach will come, we'll eat the matzah with the korban pesach, and the afikomen will be complete. The Shval Chamascha, which we cite after benching, Shval Chamascha again, we should say that with such tremendous kavanah this year. Pour forth your wrath on the nations that do not know you. Because they've devoured the Jewish people. That's what they've been doing. They've been Hamas and the terrorists and Iran. They've been Achalas Yaakov. They've been devouring Klal Yisrael. The you should pursue them with anger and destroy them from beneath the heavens of Hashem. That's what we daven for every day. But when we on Pesach, we lift up the coast, which is again the sign of, it's one of the coasts of Arba, coast of Gula. And it's the coast of Eliyahu, which is the coast of the ultimate redemption when Mashiach will come. Eliyahu will be the harbinger of Mashiach. He will proclaim the coming of Mashiach. So as we're holding that coast, we say Shval Chamas, it should be with such tremendous feeling that we say it this year, even more than we've said it in the past. And one thing that, in particular, that should strike us this year is that this past Motzei Shabbos, we witnessed a miracle, an unbelievable miracle. I spoke to a few people in Eretz Yisrael. They said, tell your brothers and sisters in America that there was a nice nigla. It wasn't normally, I said before, the nisim are hidden. This was a nice nigla. It was unbelievable. Over 300 drones and missiles were shot into Israel, and not one Jewish person died. Not one Jewish person was injured. Not one Jewish person was hit. Statistically, I read an article by a physicist. He said it's impossible that it should have happened statistically. So even though there were defense systems and the arrow defense and the David sling, which was the first time it was deployed, and the Iron Dome, but they never work 100%. 300 times, over 300 times that it should be. And these missiles were so unbelievably dangerous. The ballistic missiles, there was 185 ballistic missiles. I saw a picture. It's 40 feet long. There's tons of explosives. They could blow up a whole block or even beyond. And then the aftershock could go hundreds of feet beyond and kill anybody in the vicinity. One ballistic missile had it land. They were targeting Yerushalayim, targeting other places of Jewish life, the cities. They could have, thousands of people could have died if a few missiles had gotten into Israel. And not one single. That was a nice nigla. And the people are standing on their rooftops watching the Iron Dome and the other defense systems, taking out those systems. It was Yad Hashem. So God, the people will say, well, it wasn't such a big nace. It was all defense systems that man created. Yeah, but the fact that man had the wisdom to create those systems is miraculous. But beyond that, the systems were not perfect, and the fact that they didn't fail at all, that was Yad Hashem. Hashem used the missiles as he was hiding behind those missiles. He was the one that was in the computer in the command room and orchestrating where the missiles would go and how they would be taken out. And there was such tremendous fear in Eretz Yisrael. They knew the missiles were coming. They saw on their phones and on the TV. They saw the trajectory in the path. Iran's 1,000 miles away, but they saw unprecedented amount of missiles on the way to Eretz Yisrael. They were petrified. And then afterwards, as they stood there overnight and they saw one after another, the missiles were taken out. In the morning when they woke up, they said Mizmor Soda, the Kapitel Tehillim, which we say in davening every day, a song of thanksgiving. There was such tremendous Hakar Satov, whether a person had a Munah or he didn't have a Munah before. Everybody saw Yad Hashem. It was so amazing. So in the Haggadah, after we say the Hallel, so immediately after we say Oz Rov Nisim Mifleisa B'Layla, and there were many miracles that were amazing that night by Hibichatzi Alayla. That this is happened to us this year, a few days ago. Oz Rov Nisim Mifleisa B'Layla. Rashi in Chumash says that when the Jewish people were leaving Mitzrayim, so the Egyptians were in hot pursuit. So the Chumash says that the Anan, Amad Anan, the heavenly cloud, moved from in front of them to behind them. And Rashi says that was to protect them from the Egyptians. And the Chumash says, well, the Egyptians couldn't get close to Jewish people because they were protected by the Amud Anan. And then and Rashi says, why did it stand? In addition, why did it stand? Two reasons: stood behind them to separate them from the Egyptians, but also to take out, to protect them from to intercept the arrows and the stones that they catapulted. They attempted to catapult. They went into the Amud Anan and they were absorbed. The Amud Anan was the Iron Dome and the arrow missiles and the David sling. That was the Amud Anan. That was God doing it. God always hides himself. That's how he runs the world. He does. Otherwise, people would never have any nisyonis if everything was so obvious. He conceals himself. But he was using those defense systems. That was the contemporary Amud Anan that took out the missiles. Every single one of them, not one was able to get by. So we should, when we say Hallel, it should be this year. It should be with a tremendous sense of exhilaration, and it's just one miracle or a series of miracles. The whole 6 months, there's been so many miracles, and the fact that the Jewish state is still standing strong in spite of all the world condemnation, the United Nations and South Africa's loss, all the things, and all the criticism from politicians and everything. The fact is that Klal Yisrael, the Jewish nation, is still standing strong, and with tremendous emunah, tremendous bitachon, and the achdus is unparalleled, is unbelievable. So these are the things that we should be thinking about during the Pesach Seder, and it's so easy. I'm just giving you a few suggestions, but so much in the Seder we should be able to relate to what's taking place today, so that it will be b'chol davadar. We should feel that we're experiencing now the Yetzias Mitzrayim, and in that way we could appreciate with exhilaration and with simcha and with joy the Yetzias Mitzrayim of Klal Yisrael from Mitzrayim. Thank you for listening. I wish you a good Shabbos, and I hope that in Mirz Hashem all of our Sedarim will be very inspiring, and we should be able to see the two pieces of matzah, the broken matzah, should come together, and the enemies of the Jewish people should be destroyed, and we should be able to see the geula b'meher b'meinu, amen.